Hey, folks, welcome to Mountain Fortress Podcast. And I'm with G Man here. And G Man, today we're celebrating Veterans Day.
Yes, we're going to honor our veterans today. Long overdue. So many does not get the recognition they deserve. And it's time that we bring this forward a little bit.
I totally agree. I'm sure thankful for their service.
As well as am I.
And we've sure got a heck of a veteran here today.
Yes, we do. I've got to meet him a few minutes ago, and we hit it right off. He's a great, outstanding guy.
His name is Robbie Stewart. Not Rod Stewart. I almost said Rod Stewart a couple times.
Yeah, you struggled with that today.
But anyway, he's here, and he's really a great guy. He served in the Marine Corps, and he's got a story to tell us. Some pretty good stories. But anyway, we want to welcome him to the show now and talk about some things that he went through. Actually, welcome to the show.
Howdy. How do, as we say in Kentucky.
So tell us. I mean, what got you into the Marine Corps?
Well, I left for the Marines when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
So you don't have a brain quite yet when you're 17. I was a senior in high school, and I was working a full-time job at Owl Creek Country Club. I worked 40 hours a week every week, sometimes more than 40. Had to. I had a kid when I was a junior in high school, and that was my first responsibility in life. And I wanted to make sure my son's always been taken care of. And after my school had its prom, I realized I've missed out bad. I quit my job. And then I realized, well, what am I going to do now? And I went straight down to the MEP station and I joined the Marines. I never even thought about joining the Marines. Never gave it one thought. I quit my job at Owl Creek Country Club. Been working there for a year and getting towards the end of the senior year. And
Now, this was in Louisville, right?
yes, sir, in Louisville, Kentucky. I graduated from Fern Creek High School, which actually has the national champion Marine Corps ROTC drill competition.
Oh,
They've won it more than any other high school. They win it just about every year. I can't do that stuff. The throwing the guns, not on purpose, that is.
Right.
But so the Marines was already kind of in my head, maybe because of, going to Fern Creek, but I went straight down and
Robbie, what year was that?
that was 1985.
85.
That's the year we graduated.
Yeah. We're the same age. We
And
are.
If you recall, the President of the United States would be on TV quite often talking about we have to win the Cold War. Mm-hmm. We need to build our I need our young men and women. So, hey, I stepped up. It wasn't a heroic thing. We wasn't at war or anything, but it needed to be done. And I tell you, we've got a great military. It ain't just our equipment.
Right.
Our equipment, of course, is top notch.
Right.
We've got great people in our military, and I mean great people. And sometimes we lose some of those great people. And that's why Veterans Day is a very important day.
It's very important.
To remember, we live a great life in America. You could call the president any name you want to right now, and you ain't going to be in one bit of trouble.
Right.
There's a lot of countries you'd be locked up.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe even get your head cut off.
Oh, yeah.
We live in a great country, and I'm not saying that's because of the veterans, but
It is.
it is.
It really is.
It is.
Tell us about your basic training at Paris Island.
Yeah, what was that like?
I thought it was Paradise Island. I did not know it was Paris Island, Beaufort, South Carolina, swamp. Mosquitoes there outrank you. Alligators.
Oh, my gosh.
I have never had a better 13 weeks in my life. You only had to do one thing. If you could do one thing, you would love Paris Island. Keep your mouth shut.
Oh, really?
And you wouldn't believe this. I could do it. I can't now. But I was 17 when I went to Paris Island, and what an adventure. I'll never forget. I'm a two-time Golden Glove champion here in Kentucky. I won Golden Gloves in 1981 and 1982, and I've won 3 other state titles in boxing here in Kentucky. So I was always known as a fighter. There at Paris Island, the couple of the drill instructors heard about me and wanted me to come over to the gym, and they had a boxing ring there. And I went over one day. My drill instructor took me over and did some sparring, and I laid it on to different leagues. I learned from I fought out of Greg Page's gym. I learned from Leroy Emerson and Marcus Anderson. I learned from professionals. So I'll brag. I was a good fighter, and I knew how to box. And at the end of that, we had to go back to where the company was, where the platoon was, and they've been doing survival skills. And you had to be you had to pass all of you had to go to 10 stations and pass what they had taught. And I didn't receive one class. And the first station I went to was a sucking chest wound. And the mannequin had a sucking chest wound Velcroed onto it. And I saw the wound and I thought, well, I need to roll it over and look for an exit wound. And as I rolled it over and rolled it back, the whole wound, because it's old and the Velcro was where it came off. And the instructor, ta-da!
Healed.
He healed him. It's magic. I can't wait to see what he does at the snake bite station. And Paris Island was really, I ain't going to say fun, but it was. Because I joined the Marines. I wanted to be a Marine.
Right.
It was more fascinating that the ones that showed up with already Marine Corps haircuts, Marine Corps tattoos, they were the worst recruits. Half of them didn't even make it out. I joined because I wanted to be a Marine. So I was there because I wanted to be, you know. And Paris Island was an adventure.
Did you make good friends there? I mean, battle buddies?
Well,
brothers.
A little bit because you're there for 13 weeks, and you leave from there and go to Kapla June, and that's where I went to infantry school. Camp Geiger. Kapla June is a big place. It has Camp Geiger and Camp Johnson inside of it. Kapla June is huge. Wow. It ain't the largest or whatever like Fort Hood is, but it's big. And I went to my infantry school there, and I'd love to tell you about a Marine I encountered there.
I would love to hear it.
All Marines have heard the name Staff Sergeant Gaddy. This guy was a reconnaissance special. I'm making sure he ain't behind me now. He was that good. You would see somebody walking up and down a barracks doing fire watch.
Yeah.
If you even got too close to a window or a hatch, you know, he would pull you through it.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, you didn't even know he was there, and, you know, you're getting pulled out of a window or whatever. It's him. Well, we had night land navigation course, and me and a guy from Philadelphia, and I can't remember where the other guy was from, they wanted to hook up with me because I was kind of good at the navigation. And we found you had to find 3 points, and it's nighttime. We found them real fast, and they said, well, let's not go back yet because, hell, we'll get put on a work detail or something. Right. So I didn't smoke, but they smoked. So we sat underneath this tree and let them smoke a cigarette, and I was mocking him. I'll tell you what there, gents. You better do what I tell you. You better not fall asleep. I can come through the window. I can come through the roof. I will catch you. And I said, I can come through the toilet. I've been working on it, you know. Well, we're just laughing, cracking up. This is true. Out of nowhere, a face just appeared right next to mine, and all you heard was, I'll tell you what, there, you. It was him. We jumped up and took off running. We went back, and when we got back, a few hours later, after we got back to where Geiger was, where we was there, he walked by me. He goes, toilet. I probably could, you know. He only cared about 2 things, and he let it you know. Don't mess with his van with the Joan Jett and the Blackheart's 8 tracks. He loved Joan Jett and the Blackhearts and his kids.
No,
And then you realize, you know,
he's a pretty good guy.
Marines are people too,
Right.
you know, but he was a recon specialist.
So how long did you train there?
You're a parasite for 13 weeks, and then infantry school's 8 weeks. I went from there to a neat place. I went to Arlington, Virginia, Marine Corps headquarters. It's called Henderson Hall. It's on the backside of where Arlington Cemetery is. A lot of people don't know this. That's called Fort Myer. No S on the end. Where Arlington Cemetery is, that's an Army base. It's called Fort Myer. On the backside of that is Marine Corps headquarters. And I was there for 6 weeks. And when I left from there, I went to the Philippines. And the Philippines, you was there for 16 months for barracks duty. That was 1986. That was when Ferdinand Marcos lost the election to Corazon Aquino and wouldn't leave. And finally, Reagan convinced Marcos to leave. And he couldn't come to California like he wanted, but he got to go to Hawaii, and that's where he died. He's buried back in the Philippines. Ferdinand Marcos was the most decorated Filipino of World War II. He was a war hero. That's why he became president.
I didn't know that.
He was loved by the Philippine people, you know. But in the long run, you know, I guess the money got to him because we paid back then $500 million a year to have our installations there. But we also give a lot of Filipinos really good paying jobs,
Right.
you know, on the basis.
All I remember is his wife's shoe collection.
Well, she did have the
You remember that?
2,000.
Yes.
She did, and they did leave with her in those 2 big boxes. Because we helped set up security at Clark Air Force Base, which was a front. He didn't fly out of Clark Air Force Base. He didn't fly out of QB Point. I don't know where he flew out of, but we set up security for him to, you know, but it was a front. Because the MPA, the New People's Army, they wanted him dead.
Right.
You know, the MPA, they were very serious.
Did you guys get under attack there at all?
Yeah, that was really a neat thing. We had just got issued, I mean, weeks before this was when they came out with the new helmets. Like, kind of like what they're wearing now, because before that was the still pots that we was wearing from Vietnam. And that's what I had. And then they came out with the new helmets that's got the ear hole a little bit, you know, and it's bigger. It's supposed to be bulletproof. And when this happened, it happened real fast. We went to Clark Air Force Base in the supply van, and it had the CPR mannequin in it. So I got the CPR mannequin out, put my helmet on it, shimmied it up on top of the berm, and next thing you know, you could hear AK-47s just going off. They shot the hell out of the berm, hit the helmet about 10 times. It's in 3 different pieces. I'm just goofing off, and I don't even realize the radio's lit up. What's going on? What's going on? I don't know. They're shooting at us. Don't know why. Everybody shows up. There's my helmet laying there in pieces, you know, and the CPR mannequins tore up, you know, and the lieutenant, well, what happened? Hey, you all said these helmets were bulletproof. Don't turn this around. You know, y'all said the helmets, they're not bulletproof.
So how long were you in Panama?
Now, that was the Philippines.
The Philippines.
Philippines, 16 months.
Philippines.
And then you leave from there and you go to what's called the FMF, the Fleet Marine Force. And
Let's go back to Philippines for a minute. You and I talked. Fill in everybody on a little story about the Beatles.
This is a factual story. And I don't know what year because we can't figure that out because, you know, the Beatles quit performing live if you know, early in their career. But I thought it was the early 70s, and it might have been, I don't know. But they performed there in Manila, and Imelda invited them to the presidential palace, and they didn't show up. And they went to the airport to leave. They didn't get to leave. And then they found out why. the president put a hold on them. Yeah, George Martin's on everybody. George Martin, their producer, they're like, hey, what's going on? Why ain't y'all letting them leave? Well, they got to come and see Imelda. So they had to go and do the butt kissing, and then they got to leave.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But there was also a transition, which I wished I brought up before this. That's my fault. Tell about what happened with Imelda getting into the presidential palace.
You talking about the election?
The election.
This is a true story, and a lot of people don't know because I was talking to my mom on the phone every few weeks or whatever. When Marcos lost the election, he wouldn't give up. He wouldn't leave. And when Reagan finally convinced him to leave, you would think Corazon Aquino would have went into the presidential election. No, General Ramos was already there, feet up on the desk, smoking a cigar. He took over, and he wouldn't leave for 6 weeks. Finally, he leaves, but he's still the general, but he left the president. He couldn't run the the president no more. Then Corazon Aquino got to be president. I was told when I arrived there, welcome to a third world. I saw my first dead body there in the street. I was now 18 years old. A Filipino lady married to a U.S. Navy lieutenant. They accused her and him of being spies. I don't know what we're spying on in the Philippines. Her head had been cut off, and she was in the street. I was coming from Subic to where I was stationed was called San Miguel Naval Comm Station. And the driver, he said, stay in the van, stay in the van. I was like, that's my indication. Something's good. I want to go see. Well, I went and saw it, and I wish I didn't see it now. Man. Because her body was laying there in the street. And our detachment, which I was stationed at twice for 3 months at a time, did a total of 6 months, was Kappa's Tarlac, which is where the end of the Bataan Death March took place. And that's where they got on the trains at Camp O'Donnell. Kappa's Tarlac is an antenna field, and it's very important to our military in that whole part of the world. And we patrolled there. We were supposed to patrol there. There was cobras there. Yeah, I'm not fighting with the cobra. They win, and you couldn't shoot it, but we had cobras there. But that was a neat place, Kappa's Tarlac, which is the backside of Clark Air Force Base. That's the Air Force Base there. Real nice place. And that's where I started getting diagnosed with what my water contamination issues was in the Philippines. I lost like 38 pounds, and I was already thin. I was already, in real good condition. But where I drank the water at Kapla June, I started developing pancreatitis and all of the other issues.
And that's one of the reasons we got you on our show. We wanted to show everybody that you were a heck of a Marine. I mean, you done what you're supposed to do.
Hoorah, hoorah. Love the Corps.
And love this country.
Oh.
And what really they ended up doing, I know they didn't mean to do it probably when it was done, but they're in denial with what was done at Camp Lejeune.
It's the worst drinking water contamination in U.S. history, and there's nothing even close to
get a shot of this. There's been books published.
A Trust Betrayed by Mike Magner,
and this is all about what he's talking about. About him and what actually happened. And how many surgeries have you been through now?
I've had 22 surgeries.
22 surgeries on account of this. And
just about died from the pancreatitis surgery in 1994, which is just 5 years after I got out of the service. And when I got out of the service, I wasn't given a final physical. I got proof of that shows no final physical was given to me. There's a reason why. I was having pancreatitis.
Wow.
I was having a pancreatic attack. I'd been sick for a few months. And I was in Panama. That's why I was already having pancreatic attack, because my last 4.5 months was in Panama. When I came back from Panama, I only had 3 weeks left.
Now, my understanding is the military finally acknowledged that that was going on, right?
In 2012, the president signed the Kapla June Act, which it's actually named after a former drill instructor and former Marine Sergeant Ensminger. His daughter, it's a sad story. We're Marines. Poison us all day long. Fine. That's what you did, and that's a fact. But it was the kids that was born at Kapla June with all of these diseases. Those kids were never given a normal day in their life. They were born with unbelievable diseases from its solvents. The year I was there, when the last year they took readings was 1986. The Navy told Kapla June, quit taking readings. It's a record. Quit taking readings. And they had lost over 18,000 gallons of diesel fuel, and they couldn't figure out where it went to. It didn't just go in the waters. We drank it. That's why when the Marines had to tell them, where do you think it went? We drank the diesel fuel. We have to drink This is the 80s. Where was bottled water?
I mean,
there wasn't bottled water.
You
in the
were
80s.
in tip-top condition. I mean, you were a professional fighter when you went into the Marines, right?
No, I was an amateur champion, five-time state champion.
But what I'm saying is, it wasn't like that you were a smoker and you
not at all.
laid around drinking and you got all. I mean, this
ran a 5-minute mile, and let me tell you about Paris Island. When it was out the pools one time, they said, whoever does the most push-ups gets to call home for an hour. Well, I did 138 push-ups.
Wow.
And I won in my platoon. They said, where are you from? I said, Louisville, Kentucky. They faced me towards Louisville, and another guy was from Missouri, and another, wherever the 4 people were from, you had to face it. And you had to stand there at attention for 1 hour. Home!
Oh, that was
Home!
Jeez.
Every once in a while, the drill instructor would walk by. Did you get hold of anybody yet? Sir, no, sir. Keep calling. You learned that day. Don't volunteer for nothing.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's terrible.
Oh.
It's because you was probably homesick too. I mean, that's horrible.
Yeah.
So anyway, I know that you've had a battle like with the court systems and things like that, trying to.
I've came home and worked. I came home from the Marine Corps and got right on UPS. That's where I wanted to work. UPS built its main hub in Louisville, Kentucky, which means that's their eggs. They and I didn't think UPS would close within 40 years. So I'm saying to myself, I've got a place I can work for 35, 40 years, retire, and still be young. I was 17 when I went in, so I was just 22 years old. And when I got on at UPS, worked there for 6.5 years. Then I went to Philip Morris. I didn't want to lose that job. That was a great paying job. I worked there 3 years, and they called us in a room and told us, we're closing.
Was this during all those trials?
This was 99. And I hired on there in 96, and I asked the question. There's 12 of us from you, because there were 75 of us that hired in, the last group that hired in. There's 12 of us from UPS. There was even 2 people that left Ford Motor Company to go to Philip Morris, because whatever you made at the end of the year, you got 13% of that in profit sharing. People that hired in, my mom started working there in 67. The people that hired in roughly that time period, if they never touched their profit sharing, if they never touched it, they would have millions, not a million, millions.
Wow.
In profit sharing.
Wow.
And because there were so many times their stock, what's that called? Because it was 3 times.
Like splits.
There you go. It split so many times, and people just, unbelievable. People that couldn't even spell their name, some of them. Les Akers. Yeah, dumbest person I've met in my life. And made $116,000 a year.
Well, you were saying too, you could smoke on that job.
Oh my God. Hey, no matter, you could be running a whole panel board, sitting there lit up. What are they gonna do? Fire you?
Just light up.
No, yeah, and people did. You know, people did.
Oh, but now during all this time, was you getting sicker?
I was. I had this surgery that I've got a scar that's 8 inches long and 2.5 inches wide. Goes right through here.
I've seen those scars on you. That just
It's nasty.
It's really rough.
That was a pancreatitis that if I stayed in the hospital in Litchfield, Kentucky, I would have died. Leaving there's what saved my life because the staples busted open. Thank goodness, because then I went to see a surgeon in Louisville, and his name was Dr. Deadman. That's what I said. I'm going, who?
That's a bad surgeon's name.
Yeah. You know, you used to get your name by what it was you did.
Yeah.
You know, Mr. Smith was a smith. He could be a goldsmith, blacksmith, Mr. Cobbler, you know, Mr. Cooper. You know, you got your name by what you did. Mr. Deadman, what you been doing?
Undertaker.
Yeah. Whew. But he, like he said, you're fine. You're going to live. But, and we didn't know about the water contamination. The military never promoted it. They did let you know when I arrived at Kapla June, there was supposedly, is what the Marine told us, because that's what he's told. Supposedly there's something bad with the water here. Well, it turns out it was real bad. The fact is, the movie A Civil Action in Woburn, Massachusetts, it's the same contaminants, it's solvents. Even though Kapla June also has diesel fuel and Agent Orange mixed in with their water, but it's the solvents that matter. Their measurements in Woburn, Massachusetts was 245 parts per billion. When I was at Kapla June, the measurement was 18,000 parts per billion.
Oh my gosh.
You can't drink that water. This is a true story. When I showed up at Kapla June the first time after boot camp, and got issued my canteen. And other people say the same story. And this is my story, you know, that you kept rinsing out your canteen and trying to clean it out. Because I figured whatever they put in there to clean it out with, I can't get it out. You know,
Does it taste like gas or something? Or?
No, but it had not a water taste to it. And I guess you could say a little bit of gas.
Gas or plastic.
And I kept putting water in, and I even took toilet paper, shoved in there, stuck a stick in there trying to really get it. The stick broke off. Then you find out, how do you get the stick out of the canteen? You know, I had to call somebody that build ships and bottles. Help me out here. You know, it turns out there wasn't nothing in the canteen. It was the water.
Wow.
That's how bad the water was. You know, it was the water I was putting in the canteen.
Well, now your brothers, your other Marines, have they gone through similar things as you, or is it?
Yeah, I tell you, me and Conway, he's from Philadelphia. If he ain't a stand-up comedian, he missed his calling. Me and him could have gas explosion, farting competitions. It was that bad. You could fart on command.
Jeez.
It was the gas. You was that gassy, and it was that bad.
Has he developed any problems from it?
I've not really talked to hardly anybody.
Right.
I was in the Marine. I've been alone.
I know you've
my
been
whole
through.
life.
You've got renal problems, right? Kidney.
I've had 16 kidney procedures.
16.
Jeez.
And when I filed for my disability here in Kentucky, they don't acknowledge hardly anything that's concerning the military. The source my pancreatitis comes from is military doctors and the VA. The VA trains 80% of our doctors in this country. More than half of their training is done at VAs.
Right.
And you're going to call the VA and military doctors unacceptable? My esophagus, the colored EGD of it in 2013 shows the lining is gone. It looks like a peeled blister. Yes, it burns. It burns. It burns like a blister.
And you know what I know about you? I mean, I know you're not a drinker.
No, I don't drink
You know,
at all.
I know. And you're not a smoker. Matter of fact,
No.
you're kind of a health nut a little bit. I mean, you like to.
I've rocked
You know,
my whole. I'm fit. I've never did stomach work.
You know.
And I've never been hurt with the body shot.
That's why I know it's something that you ingested. Had to been years ago.
Well, a doctor gave a report, and she did her residency at Beth Israel. Lexington, Kentucky might not recognize Beth Israel because it belongs to Harvard University because their basketball team ain't as good as Kentucky's. Well, it really don't matter about your basketball team. Beth Israel is Harvard's University's hospital.
Right.
You got to be pretty smart to be there. And she did her residency there. They were the ones that were this was during the Woburn, Massachusetts, the Aaron Brockovich story with John Travolta and all that. That's that time period. So she's educated in this field. She wrote a whole report about me. Social Security contacted the VA, and they contacted Carrollton, Kentucky. I've never been to Carrollton, Kentucky, and I damn sure ain't been to the VA there. Wrote a report that I've never complained of. I've had diarrhea since 1985, and that's all I've had. I don't go to the bathroom normal. That's all I've had is diarrhea. And then you can look at all the other stuff that's wrong with me. I'm burnt from there to there, you know. And he wrote a report that said there's nothing wrong with me. Well, long story short, this Dr. Maria Rivera, she wrote a whole report and she let it be known. He had no information. And she gave dates and diagnosis, which disclaims his report, and let it be known his report holds no weight at all.
Why do you think they're doing this to you to keep from paying out?
Because everybody in Kentucky that's on disability, I got a bad back and I paced the floor from, that's what Daniel Dotson told me to tell the judge, that I paced the floor from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock every morning. I've got anxiety. We all got anxiety. It's a human feeling. And if you can't control it, buck up.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
You know, that Kentucky puts its people on disability. Look what coal miners had to go through to get black lung. Instead of it getting approved like that, no, don't do that, because if you put something off for a few years at least, so many of them's going to die.
I was going to say that.
And it took Kapla June 30 years to become a bill. And you don't think a lot of the people died that was sick? There's more men in the world with breast cancer from Kapla June than any other place.
Wow.
What amazed me is the story we were talking about earlier. When you went in front of the judge, and the judge literally had your medical records there.
They have
did
to,
not
because they
acknowledge
order
half
them. They
of them.
order them. They've got your whole medical record right in front of them, and they know it. And he asked questions, and my lawyer said, well, if a MRI had been done on his neck before 2016, I'm sure it would have showed something. There's an MRI from 8 years earlier, 2007, that shows 3 herniated bulging discs. You know, and the judge knows it. He's got it in front of him. My lawyer might not have knew it. And I let it the next judge, which is the one I'm suing them. And I've got this case in Pikeville, Kentucky.
I don't blame you.
And when I won Golden Gloves, it was because I knew I was going to win. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be fighting the judicial system. I respect the judicial system. I respect our policemen. I respect our country.
Well, Robbie, you're really not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for your brothers that were poisoned too.
Well, if they're going to say that the VA and medical and the military doctors are an unacceptable source of information, oh yeah, I got plenty to say about that. You know, and the judge's decision, I would never in my life call a judge a liar. Never.
And the military acknowledged it, kind of. You know, they did finally acknowledge that was going on. Did they change the water supply or do anything different? Or
I don't know that answer because I was there. That was 1987. I arrived at Kapla June after the Philippines.
I'm just curious if they're still being
First, I was at
poisoned.
Kapla June after boot camp.
Yeah.
And this was 1985.
Right.
And I was there for the 8 weeks. And that's where I got sick.
Yeah.
Drinking that water. And because I was sick in the Philippines. All of that's documented. And I got diagnosed in the Philippines with the gastroenteritis, irritable bowel, the diarrhea. All of that I got diagnosed with in the Philippines. So I got sick when I went to infantry school. When I left in 87, March of 87, and showed back up at Lejeune, that's the year the cutoff is. I can't tell you intelligently if the water was changed or what.
God, let's
I
hope.
doubt it.
God, let's hope so.
I doubt it.
Wow.
You know, George W. Bush sent Wolfowitz. I can't remember Wolfowitz's first name. He's famous. You know, people know who Wolfowitz is. He went to Congress in the middle of the night to get a bill passed, and this is all in the book. This is true. He went to Congress to get a bill passed to exempt military bases from this. You know, that they could dump whatever they want to.
Wow.
You know, exactly, that they can do this, you know.
Wow.
And that was George W. Bush. When I got out of the Marines, that was George H.W. Bush. You know this. He was shot down. He was a pilot.
Right.
You would think he's very
Pro-military. Right.
The window was closed. When I got out of the service, even though I was sick when I got out, I couldn't join the VA. I got to join the VA under Bill Clinton. He's the one that changed the rules. President Clinton did. You know, somebody that didn't serve. And, you know, I think he cared about it. I think everybody, when it comes down to it, basically does care about the military. But actions speak louder than words.
Care about the military.
Actions speak louder than words.
Right. We better care about our soldiers, you know, and now we're taken care of. But so you don't even know if they could be drinking that today. I mean, still like.
Now I'm sure it's been changed now.
You got me worried.
Yeah. Well, I can't give you those answers because they lied so much.
It would be secretly changed.
They lied so much about what was going on, and then wanted to pull the executive privilege. I've had it up to here with executive privilege.
Right.
You know, let's take the White House down and put up a glass house.
Right.
You know, let's find out what's going on.
Right.
You know, people also want to know where their tax money go.
Right. Right.
Well, our time is ticking down.
Yeah.
Let me say this. I loved serving.
Yeah.
Do you want to know where some of the biggest idiots you grew up with? They're in the military. They're crazy.
Well, as a matter of fact,
Let's let him to show us these pictures and go over them for us right quick.
Here's the Kentucky bunch. That's me right here. Here's Dean Jervis from Ashland, Kentucky. Scott Giles from Georgetown, Kentucky. And Tony Fergosa. He's from south of Lexington. He's a professional golfer. I don't know exactly where he's at, but that's him there.
That's cool.
I love this picture. This is my last day in the Philippines. This is Michael Snow. He's from Boston, Massachusetts.
There you go, Gary.
And
G-man.
he spoke Boston. I mean, his accent. He loved boxing, so he was at all of my fights. Over there.
That's great.
I fought a former Marine Corps fighter, champion, Sergeant Bland, and I beat him. That was a really good fight. Hard fight, too. And this is Sean Gill. He's one of the top people at the University of Miami's medical school.
That's great. And then here, show us some of these. Who's in these?
This is me right here on
Let's
the...
see. Can you zoom it in?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, on the back side of here, I can't tell you where that is. I'm not allowed to.
Okay.
in real life. But this is me in Okinawa. This is me in Corporal Natividad in the Philippines. He is a U.S. Marine. He's Filipino, and that's when I was stationed in the Philippines.
That's cool. And show them some of your awards and stuff you have here. Let's see.
There you are.
Here's my certificate of appreciation from the Marine Corps for my service in Panama, Operation Just Cause. Here is the Joint Task Force for my participation in the Operation Just Cause. That's from Major General Bernard Lefty. He loved Marines. And you gotta love an Army general that loves the Marines.
Right.
And he did. He really was nice to us and good to us. Here's something I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of being a 5-time state champion in boxing, but I'm more proud of this. This is my jest. This is 7 days by yourself in the jungle. You have to feed yourself. You have to do your own drinking water. You're taught 9 hours by a Negrito what to do, and then boom, you're out there for 7 days. It was easy. I could have did it for a year.
You're a Kentucky boy. You're used to
That's
that.
what people do that now.
Here's a cool picture.
That's Elvis Presley. No, I'm sorry. That's me. Look,
That's him. He's changed a little bit. Oh, I love these old photos.
this is Okinawa. This is the backside of our base. And that's Okinawa. And then that's us. Most 29 Palms, Bridgeport, California. Bridgeport, California is the most beautiful place I've been in this.
Really?
Bridgeport, and it's beautiful here. You know, you go off the road here, and you're gonna find beautiful places in Eastern Kentucky. Eastern Kentucky's beautiful. Bridgeport, California was beautiful.
And then,
This was when I was boxing.
This is when he was boxing.
When I beat Sergeant Bland, his record was 202 and 2. 202 wins, 2 losses. And then that night, it was 202 wins and 3 losses. I beat him. Hard fight, really good fight. And as soon as our fight ended, if you look at this picture here, you can see the sky's already black.
oh yeah, it's dark.
Look at this at the very beginning, you can see the dark clouds.
Oh yeah.
And at the end of the fight, it's dark. You know, it's an amateur fight, so it's 3 rounds.
Wow.
It downpour.
Wow. Wow. Well, Robbie, we're all out of time, and I tell you, buddy, your story is one that really needs to be really picked up by major people. But we'll do what we can do.
I thank you.
Yeah.
And the people I serve with.
And again, where can they find this?
This is A Trust Betrayed. It's a book by Mike Magner. And
Here, I
all
can do
the
it that way.
information is from the government. It's not, this ain't no personal opinions. All the information comes from the DOD, the EPA, NOAA, NASA, and it documents how bad the water contamination was. And the book details how they covered it up.
Wow.
And I tell you, there is a difference. I'll be real fast. There is a difference between the Marine Corps and Marines.
Oh,
I love Marines. They're my brothers, brothers and sisters. I love them all. The Marine Corps is who we worked for.
Right.
That's who worked for the White House. Just like the Army, you got soldiers, you know, and I love the soldiers. The Army works for the White House. The Navy has sailors. Mm-hmm. The Navy, you know, and of course the Marine Corps works for the Navy. You know, and the Navy is the one that is covered everything up and treated it pretty bad.
Well, as an American citizen, I hate because that happened to you. I mean, but I would try, and G-Man agrees with me. We'll try every way in the world to get this out, and so people will know. Not people don't know this information.
They don't, and Kentucky is you can be pro coal and be pro clean water. You can, I promise. You should. You should care about the water you drink.
Right, exactly.
You know, you can be pro coal and be pro. I want at least pretty good water.
You know, especially for our soldiers. I mean, they need to be healthy.
And what we were given and known to be given, the book details it that we diluted it.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But again, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, and when you get your case done, we'd love to have you back.
Oh, anytime you want to come back.
I'm sure it's going to be on the national nightly news because I'm sure I'll be going to jail that day if it don't go good for me.
Oh, no.
I think it will.
That's not a threat.
I think it will because I've only told the truth. And like I said, the judge's decision, it has falsities in it. It's riddled with them. And everything I've claimed is true, and I backed up in my complaint with dates and diagnosis. I think and I love Pikeville, and that's why I filed it there. Pikeville is a very good place, and Pikeville don't care about Lexington, don't care about Louisville. Right. Louisville don't do nothing for Pikeville. Lexington don't. Pikeville's its own entity.
Right. Well, I mean, anybody that cares about the truth and see all they have to do is look at how many surgeries and look at your body, what it's been through.
Both knees are replaced. Both knees are replaced. And look at the people on disability with one knee replacement. And this one don't bend even halfway, and that's why I had 4 staples put in my head. I had to get 4 staples put in my head because I tripped in the kitchen, went right into a corner.
But you've had pancreatitis 3 times.
Hospitalized 3 times. No, I've had pancreatitis way more than 3.
Oh, really?
I've been hospitalized 3 times with it. And about died in 94 with it. And what happened to our House Speaker in Kentucky this past year? What did he die from?
It was pancreatitis.
Pancreatitis.
It sure was.
You know, but I bet you the judge acknowledged his pancreatitis because a doctor in Kentucky diagnosed him with it. You know, mine ain't recognized because the judge said in the decision it comes from an unacceptable source. And the Dr. Maria Rivera's report, it just totally gives the correct information to help the judge out. And the judge called her Mark. Didn't even get her name right. Her name's Maria Rivera. He called her Mark. That shows how he took her report, because her report is very important.
Well, I hope that this helps. It can't hurt, I wouldn't think. It's just getting information that people don't know about, what happened to you. And this is awful. I really believe that.
It's awful what happened to the kids, too.
Yeah,
the kids that
yeah.
were born there. I've met a man here in Letcher County whose kid, he was in the Marines, and he didn't know anything about what I'm talking about, and his kid was born there with my...
Well, I've known you now about 2 years, and you told me this story when we first met, and I researched a lot of it myself, and I said, when he comes back, because we didn't have the podcast then, I said, we've got to get him on the podcast because he's got to.
I appreciate this very much.
You've got to tell your story.
I appreciate it. I do have a mouth on me. And people say, well, you can tell he's from Louisville, Kentucky. I grew up in Greg Page's gym. And Greg Page was called Louisville Lip Number 2. And let me tell you, I'll be real. When Greg Page won his title, this is something most people don't know. He knocked Jerry Cootsy's mouthpiece out. You know how the referee would get the mouthpiece clean up, stick it back in. Greg kicked it out of the ring and punched him again. I was a pallbearer at Greg Page's funeral. Greg Page was very good to me. I love Greg Page. I loved our 2 trainers, Leroy Emerson and Marcus Anderson. I loved fighting in Louisville. I was born in Hazard, Kentucky. I've spent my summers here in Knott County in Red Fox, where my mom and dad's family's from. That's why I'm here now. I've been living here for 6 years.
You're such a positive person too. I mean, I mean that. And when you tell me something like that, I believe you.
Well, when I leave here, I kick babies, dogs, cats. I'm a mean person. No, what's your other choice? You need to be positive. And if you got negative people around you, acknowledge that. Right. Negative people are bad for you.
Yeah.
They really are. And they do. And they hurt you, whether you know it or not. And this is, you only gonna be here one time. I ain't saying live it up, but be good. Right. Don't have to look, and I don't look over my shoulder. except for Staff Sergeant Gaddy.
Well, on that note,
I'll tell you what, there, gents.
Robbie, again,
Thank you so much.
Thank you
And
for
thank you for your
service.
service.
Thank
Yeah.
you all.
And happy Veterans Day, by
Thank
the way.
you. And that's
Happy
the Marine Corps
Veterans Day
birthday.
to all you
Yeah,
veterans.
that's right.